Hi, everybody. Sage Goddess here, and I want to begin my practice with you. Part of my work for next year is going to be on really helping you hone and develop and engage a deeper level of practice, a consistent practice, a disciplined practice that allows you to raise energy, to work with energy, and to connect with energy in a more powerful way. And because we gather every month for the full moon, it's so powerful. We have such a beautiful community who really comes together from all over the world, almost every continent, with 6 people, like I said last night, just joining us from Africa alone, which is a lot considering the time difference. It's a huge commitment. And so I want you to think about, how are you committing yourself to your spiritual practice right now? And believe me, I know. I'm a mom. I have young children. I'm married. I have close friendships. I have aging parents. I own a company. We have a lot of demands on our time. And so part of what happens, I believe anyway, especially as I get older, I don't know about you, is I'm finding that I want to be more organized. I want to have a plan for how I'm going to commit to my spiritual development. I want to feel good about it. I want to feel like it's a good use of my time, that there's a good return on the investment of my time, because when you don't have a lot of time, there has to be a return. There has to be something in exchange for the time that you give to your spiritual development. You want to feel like you're getting something back. And so part of what's really key, and we don't talk about it a lot, part of what's really important is integration. Ritual is powerful, and it does help you learn how to tap into that universal flow of energy. And it's so critical for you. Did you know that raising energy and working with energy can heal your physical body? It can help you transmute trauma from the past, and it can prevent future disease as well. I'm very interested in the idea that by going in and doing ritual work and really exploring the innermost caverns of our soul, really the places and pockets where we still have some resistance and some unhealed energy, some wounds from the past. I really love the idea, because I think it's true, I've lived it, of that when you go in and we do that work and you really target and focus on those areas, not only do you release trauma from the past, all the way back, by the way, through past lives, you can heal generations of your own physical material lineage. You can heal karmic baggage and debt too from your soul lineage. So we're doing so much work for the past, so much work in the present, but I also want to remind you, you're doing work for the future too. When you go in and you start excavating and doing the work of looking at the places and pockets where you still have those wounds that you're not addressing, you are preventing future disease. I believe that with all my heart. That's part of why I'm so committed to the work that we do. So this audio is about integration. This audio is about getting you to ask yourself some important, critical questions about the work that we have just done. And if you love it, if you enjoy this, what we're going to do for the next 10 minutes or so, then I will make one of these every time we have a big public ritual, so that the next day the work continues. One of the number one questions I'm asked in my work, across all aspects of my work, by the way, the online work that I do is one small part of what I do. I do a lot of in-person work. I do a lot of my own work. We have a whole community here live in Los Angeles who I work with in different ways in person. And then we have our online community, and then there's a whole other community that I connect with outside of all of that even, where I do additional work and support people. So I want to find a way of drawing this thread across all the different communities that I'm part of to really inspire you to think about, what does it mean to pull the work through? So like I said, the number one question I'm asked is, so great, the ritual was fantastic. I feel so good. I feel like I got all this information, all this wisdom. I'm there, I'm seeing it, I'm connecting. And then the next day, it's like it all just sort of unravels. And the next day you're like, well, so all my insecurities are back. And so all of my anxieties are back. And my kids are screaming, and my partner is saying all this stuff. And how do I keep that energy going the next day, 5 days later, a week later? And the answer is integration. You have to have a practice for taking the energy of the night before or the week before and returning to it. And you can do that a number of ways. So I'm going to walk you through what those ways are in this particular audio. And then if you like this idea of integration, we'll have a longer process going forward. And down the road, part of my vision is, wouldn't it be fun to have a live integration the next day? 24 hours later, wouldn't it be fun to all get online together again and say, okay, so what's happening? The moon has transited out of that sign. The moon is now waning. And so, how are you feeling today or 2 days later? I love the idea that there's some continuity. So the first thing you can do with integration, which is very passive, by the way, there's passive integration and active integration. Passive integration means that when you worked with your tools in the ritual, those tools have become amulets for you, talismans of the work. And so when you pick up those stones again, a day later, 2 days later, they still hold the essence and energy of the work that we've done together. A lot of people ask me, why do we use ritual tools for a full moon or anything else? The answer is twofold. One is the ritual tool sets that I create hold the 4 elements. You've got water element held in the perfume. You have earth element energy held in the stones. And then you have fire and air element energy held in the candle. When you extinguish your candle, you're invoking the element of air. And when you light your candle, you're invoking the element of fire. It's very important to hold those 4 directions, or those 4 elements. When you join me, you always hear me read that directional invocation, right? And part of it is a way of creating a tighter container. If my rituals feel different to you, it's because the level at which I'm holding the container of the energy is unique. In my experience anyway, there have been a lot of people who've come up behind me and have used what I do as a template, and so they're doing the work now of holding that ritual space in a powerful way, which I love. I'm here as a teacher, so I love the idea that I'm impacting sort of the next generation of people who are starting to engage this work more deeply. But it's a very important part of your protocol, not only to open a sacred circle, but to call upon the guardians and gatekeepers of the 4 directions. And when you use your ritual tools, that's another layer of correspondence, because all those energies are being held in those tools. It's very important. Also, the tools that Sage Goddess creates that you use during ritual have been made for that purpose. They've been dedicated and consecrated. There is a level of vibrational energy there that is unique, and they are for that purpose. And so you're welcome to continue using your tools. I really want you to know that. We worked with Morrigan and Lilith and Hecate last night. And those candles, anytime you want to go back in, anytime you want to drop back into that state, that place that we were all together, all you have to do is light those candles again. And so that's another part of, beautiful part for me anyway, of having ritual tools is you can come back, you can return. Now that we're in the waning moon phase after the full moon, guess what tool I'm using? My black moon candle as we approach the next new moon, because I set such powerful intentions for 2017. I want to continue. I want to drop back in and tap back into all that energy. And so I'm coming back now to a tool that I used several weeks ago. So I want to remind you to do that. Some people in the community buy baskets and like little containers where they store all their candles upright, and they keep them in a, either in a cabinet in their sacred space. And then they just pull those candles out when they need them. Their new moon candle, their full moon candle, their Lilith, Hecate, and Morrigan candles. Next month, your Ganesha and your Lakshmi candles, so that when you're working on your business or when you're trying to, grow in terms of your prosperity, or maybe you hit a roadblock, and so you need Ganesha to work with to help you overcome obstacles, those candles just become sort of like a toolkit for you. So I want to encourage you to come back to old tools that maybe you feel like, oh, I did the work, but remember, they're there. They're working tools that have been created for the purpose, dedicated and consecrated during our ritual together, and so they're always available for you to open that door again. So using your tools is one way to engage in integration, which is to say, a day from now, 2 days from now, 3 days from now, when you light your Lilith candle and you hold your stone, whichever stone you connected with Lilith in the ritual, that energy flow is activated. And so you can return right to that place. And if you start feeling scattered, or you start feeling like, you've lost touch with the work that we were doing, that's all you have to do. It's really that simple. That's a passive integration. That is not you actively doing anything, except that you are using the tools and just allowing the energy to come and pass back through you. There's nothing wrong with passive integration, but there are more active ways of integrating. Another method of integration is to communicate. And that can take a couple of different forms. You can journal, and I'm going to offer you some questions in this audio that I think would be helpful, journal questions for your integration process. It's really helpful to integrate with someone else. And so if you don't have anybody that you can physically talk to in your life, coming into the Full Moon Ritualist group, coming back to our event page, we can start threads there and keep that conversation going. What's happening, what's coming up for you as you work with these goddesses, and as you work, because really, of course, these goddesses are archetypes, so they're tapping into something within you, something deep within your own subconscious that is important for you to look at, or it wouldn't be happening, right? So a more active level of integration is to journal, dialogue, come into conversation around the messages and the meanings of the work that we have just done. So, as an example, if you want to integrate the work with Lilith that we've been doing, a question that I would ask you today, coming up on 24 hours later, is, in your dream time last night, did you experience anything unusual? Do you remember your dreams from last night? And if your dreams brought up something challenging for you, can you look at that? A lot of us did. I did as well. There were things that came up in dream time last night where I was like, that's interesting, you know? And you can learn to see your dreams, even the challenging dreams, as just compelling data for you. This is information. Why is this coming up? Why are you seeing this? What are you resisting? Because what you resist often comes up in dream time. We call it a nightmare, but it's like, you know, it's really coming up in a helpful way for you to look at something and work with it so that it doesn't come up in some other form. When you get signs and symbols in your dreams during the day, messages, you hear things, you see things, and we get messages in different ways. I'm very clairaudient and clairvoyant. I see and I hear. A lot of people are more sentient. You know, they feel when they touch, or they feel something in their surroundings. However you get information, it's subtle at first. Have you noticed? And then it gets louder, and then it gets louder. What you don't want to have happen is when you're resisting, and not heeding the signs, all of a sudden it shows up in your body, or all of a sudden it shows up in a way that you can't ignore anymore. And that's what happens. And so what I want to encourage you to do in your life as a path to wellness really is to heed the signs when they're really, really subtle. Don't overlook them. Don't say, well, I don't know. That's kind of weird. I don't know why that's coming up. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it's in my head. And that's the act of pushing down information, signs, and symbols that are useful to you, but you're like, maybe you're not ready or don't want to. But the reality is those things don't go anywhere. You know, they'll just try to get louder for you next time. So with regard to Lilith, then, a good integration question would be, have you sensed anything in the last 24 hours around that idea of your inner wild? And have you felt the call to connect on a deeper level with the part of you that is a little bit uncontrollable? There is part of you that can't be controlled, a little part of you that's like a feral cat, right? And so, you know, other people might be afraid of that part of you, but it'd be important for you not to be afraid of her. She's part of you. And so how can you work with her? How can you dialogue with her? What is she trying to show you would be a good journal question. What is the wild part of you trying to show you right now? And what wisdom can be gathered from there? And we can offer questions too for the other goddesses as well. The Morrigan, of course, is a great queen who's trying to connect you with your power. And where is your power located? What does your power look like? And a good journal question could be, when you feel powerful, describe that. Describe what it looks like and tastes like and feels like when you are in your power. Do you look different? Do you feel different? Do you speak differently? Do you carry yourself differently? A lot of us do. And then the other question, you know, sort of like the flip question is, when you're not in your power, what does that look like? What does that feel like? What does that taste like? Use your senses to describe what it looks like when you are in your power, when you're not in your power. In my Magical Sabbatical course, which, by the way, I teach this course for women, is $30 a month, and we engage in a much deeper and more intimate level of conversation than we can get to in the public groups because there's a lot fewer people in the community. One of the things that we do when we talk about shadow is we actually take selfies, you know, and we look at ourselves and we share that with each other in the group. It's like, here's me in my power. This is what my power looks like. And then just being witnessed in that group is very, very important for us as women. As for some women in the group, they've seen themselves in their power so many times. Maybe they live in their power now, so it's not as much of an awakening. But for a lot of people, it's like, you know, this is the first time since I was a kid or ever. You know, I'm in my 40s, I'm in my 50s, I'm in my 60s, and I'm seeing myself in my power for the first time. Or, you know, there is something to be said for faking it till you make it. If you don't feel powerful, can you almost put on your power like armor or like a costume for a minute? What would it look like for you to feel powerful? If you can just access that, then you can manifest it. So even if you don't feel powerful right now, do what feels right intuitively to step into that power, and then dialogue from there, journal from there, take a picture of yourself from there, start to recognize her and invite her forward into your life. I think that's very important. And then with Hecate, who is the great keeper of the crossroads, right? She is the goddess of the veil. She has past, present, future right in front of her. And she has the crone wisdom of the three, I would say. She is much more the crone. And so good questions around Hecate, integrating the wisdom of Hecate is, what does your wise self look like? If you were to tap into your deepest level of wisdom, and we'll carry this forward next month when we start connecting with Saraswati. She'll be a very interesting counterpoint, perhaps, to our work with Hecate. There's always a beautiful synergy as we flow from one month to the next in terms of thinking about what these goddesses have to offer us. And so what does your wise self have to tell you right now? Where are the crossroads in your life right now? Like, what thresholds are you crossing? Are you moving from unemployed to employed? Are you moving from, mother of young children to mother of older children? Are you moving from wife to single person? A lot of you are going through changes in your relationship status. Are you going from single person to wife or partner? Are you going from, there's so many thresholds that we cross, right? And so my question to you in terms of integrating the wisdom is, what thresholds are you sitting on right now? And as you cross, what does that look like? Why are you crossing? When are you crossing? What's your intention as you cross a threshold? We talk, again, in sabbatical a lot about sacred thresholds in our lives and how important it is to honor those, not just to go through the transition, but to really recognize it in a ceremonial way, because every change in your life is sacred. Every time you change, your environment changes. It's like chaos theory, right? One small change in your environment echoes out into the rest of the ecosystem. And so you may think that change in your life and change in my life are different things, but in the reality of the matrix that we both live in, your change and my change hinge upon each other in magical ways, right? Even if we never meet. It's the beauty of all the work that we do. And you'll see me starting to infuse more wisdom really from the realm of quantum physics and quantum mechanics, because that's the key to everything. That's what takes all the stuff that we do from this level of like woo-woo, I don't know, I don't believe, and really grounds it in a material, physical reality that's undeniable. And you will see a lot of people, I think, in the metaphysical world moving in that direction, especially those of us who have academic training in that way, because we're really interested and we're invested in showing people that there's a groundedness, there's a rootedness to the work that we do, and it's real and it's scientific, and in that sense it's undeniable, and it's also in so many ways much more complex than we've ever thought about it before. But that's the beauty of it. That's what keeps all of us engaged. I've been doing this work. I'm 43. I've been doing this work since I was a teenager. Really for the much more than half my life. And people ask me, well, how does it stay new to you or interesting to you? Isn't it like Groundhog Day, where every year it's the same holidays, the same thing, the same stones? And it's like, absolutely not, because the field is different. The field is ever shifting. And so, the tools may be the same, the holidays may be the same, but almost nothing else is. The constant is change. And there's an ebb and a flow of energy that makes the field dynamic. And so there really isn't a way to say, oh, this is the same old thing. It's never the same old thing. Not for me anyway. And that's what keeps it so invigorating to do this work, because every time we have the conversation, there's a shift in the energy field. And so the constants for us, the tools that we use, the wisdom that we have, the prayers that we say, the mantras that we work with, those bring peace, and they bring stability, and they bring healing, because everything else is shifting. Everything else is dynamic. So those are the integration questions I would urge you to sit with today, coming out of that full moon ritual. And constantly take a deep breath, keep working with the tools, keep asking yourself the important questions, be mindful of the moon phase. If you're new to all of this work, now that we're in a waning moon, that's a releasing of energy. It all peaked yesterday, the 24-hour window of the full moon. Always remember, too, that you have 24 hours on either side of the full moon to do ritual work. 24 hours before, 24 hours afterward. Some people say 48 hours before and 48 hours afterward. I'm more a fan of the 24-hour period. So I think it's just more accurate in terms of the energy in the field and how full that moon is. Her lunar phases really do shift after 24 hours on either side. And of course, we can't always gather right at the minute the moon goes full. So we always gather within 24 hours of it to do our work together. And be mindful when the moon is waning. That's releasing, letting go, allowing for the darkness to begin to teach you and engage your intuition more. And then as the moon begins to wax again after the new moon, that's a time of building, of creation, of fullness, developing toward that fruition, leaning less on your intuition and more on your environment, because by the light of the full moon, everything is visible. And when you learn to live your life this way, in these moon phases, it's so, so, so empowering. And part of it is you're plugging into, again, the matrix of your ancestors. Your ancestors lived by these moon phases. These were meaningful to them. And so when you start to live this way too, it's a powerful way of reconnecting with wisdom that's already stored in you. This is in your DNA. This is in your soul's architecture to live this way. And so all you're doing is just bringing yourself back to a way of knowing that's not foreign to you at all. In fact, it might be very, very, very familiar. So namaste. Stay with the practice. Stay with your breath. Think about ways to integrate. If you love this work, give me feedback, and I will be very open to the idea of at least doing an audio for you after the full moon each month. A time, a touchstone, place to come back. And just to remind you, keep smudging. Keep working with your tools. Keep working with your stones. Light your candle. You don't have to light your candle every night. Just a few minutes, You'll be amazed once you start putting these principles into practice and really start working with your tools in a structured, disciplined way, how much this just becomes part of your life. And what I love too is that this changes the lives of people around you. Then your partner starts seeing, then your children start seeing, then your best friends start seeing, and then sometimes even your parents start seeing the shift in you. You're more peaceful, you're more stable, you're more grounded, you're more aligned, you're happier. That's the number one change, by the way, that people recognize in you, is when you're happier. And happiness doesn't come from anything external. Happiness is about you really going within and starting to understand who you are and why you're here. Everything else falls out from there. And it was funny, there was a sign. I was driving, literally like a physical sign. I was driving home yesterday, and the sign said, "Life is not fair, period. Adjust." I thought to myself, that's almost too easy. I agree and I disagree. There is a balance in the universe, and the universe is constantly striving to come back to that balance. Think about your body. When your body is unwell, what is your body immediately and constantly trying to do? Is find that stasis, find that homeostasis, find that way back to your desired weight, your ideal weight, find that way back to a stable and centered and grounded central nervous system, find that way back to, a healthy pulse, right? Find that in heart rate. Your body wants to come back to its own center. There is a great sense of checks and balances and equality and fairness, I would say, in the universe. That's why we have systems of karma and energy and what we call the threefold law and all these things. So if you trust, when I looked at the sign, I thought, to me that says I don't trust. When I'm like, well, life isn't fair, so I have to adjust. I shift that perspective to say the universe is equal. The universe seeks its own balance. And when you go too far one way or the other, what's it going to do? It's going to bring back the balance. When your body goes too far one way or the other, it's going to bring back the balance. If you haven't been eating well and then all of a sudden you stop eating completely, what does your body do? It wants to bring you back to center. Everything in moderation, kindness to yourself in moderation, healthy eating in moderation, exercising your body in moderation, love in moderation, spiritual development in moderation. And the more you can support the universe in aligning in that way it's already trying to do anyway, the more peace you're going to find. That is the key, I believe, to happiness, is for you to understand that the universe seeks balance. And the more you can harmonize and be part of that balance. And notice when you're out of balance, by the way, okay? We talk about this too a lot here at Sage Goddess, these sort of like sine waves where you ebb and flow. It's a good day, it's a bad day. It's a good day, it's a bad day. And can you find a way, and I'm not talking about antidepressants or anything like that, I'm talking about like energetically, can you find a way to find that center line, to find that equator, to find that center point, so that you're not only are you not living on those waves, which are, manic and sort of stressful, but that you also can become someone who can be relied upon by other people, to almost like set the temperature. Of course, there's a siren as soon as I say that. And so we take a deep breath. You have to go with the flow. But that is the core of what I want to share with you today. That is integration. That is saying, I'm a spiritual being having a human experience. I want to balance the spiritual with the human. I want to balance the, you know, the thrills and the happiness with the sadness and the sorrow. And I want to find some way to walk the middle path. And there's a beautiful journal question for you embedded there. Can you tell? Like, what is the middle path for you in your life? If you're angry, what's the way back to peace? If you're sad, what's the way back to happiness? And I truly believe if you just open yourself up and start asking the questions, the universe will guide you, because it is what the universe seeks. It's the law. I offered a meme a couple of weeks ago, and it said, when I stop struggling, I float. It was a woman laying in water. When I stop struggling, I float. It is the law. If you lay back in water and you stop struggling, you're going to float. But you have to trust. You have to trust. All right, dear ones, may the integration work be a full blessing for you. May it bring wisdom, may it bring peace, may it bring balance, may it bring that level of homeostasis that your body, mind, and your spirit are all seeking. And they're seeking it, by the way, because the universe seeks it, and we are nothing but echoes of the universe. The universe reverberates through us. So we are part of the matrix. We are a face of the divine, truly. So may you be blessed in all ways. Namaste. I'll see you soon.